Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN and Kick TV. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, YouTube.com/NASN-TV. Very, easy to remember, NASN-TV. If you need to, just think about it. It's a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a change. In fact, we just realized something at the top of the show there we won't mention, but I'm sure you can figure it out by the way what I say versus what was said before by that guy with the voice. Happy Friday. We are here. We've got plenty to talk about today. The Michael Bradley fallout continues. Fallout. I mean, it's that makes it sound like it's something bad. Some controversy happened. And I suppose that for some people, Michael Bradley coming to MLS is a controversy. I don't see it that way. I think there's way too many positives to it to feel like it's a controversy. He didn't do anything wrong, fundamentally. Looked out for his family, got paid, came back to the league where he started and his dad coached and is his home league. What's wrong with that? We'll certainly talk about Jermaine Defoe being official as well in Toronto. Tottenham Hotspur issued a statement that said they have sold Jermaine Defoe to MLS. He'll join in March. He'll stay with Spurs until February 28th. And then he'll join Toronto FC. Big changes in Toronto. Big changes. What does it mean? I don't know. Will they be a good team? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Is Ryan Nelson the guy? Lots of questions there. Today's show, we'll have a couple of guests. Elliot Turner, our friend from FootFanatico.com, a gentleman I'm going to call the poet laureate of the American soccer internet, although I'm not sure he actually writes poetry. I just like the title. He'll join us in a little while. We'll talk. He's got a new audio book. He wrote a book. He wrote an ebook about soccer Spanish. Everybody should learn soccer. I'm working on it. I need to learn my soccer. I need to get my hands on Elliot's book, actually, to learn some soccer Spanish. So we'll talk about that with Elliot. He covers. He writes about the U.S. national team for The Guardian. So we'll talk about what Bradley's move means for the national team. And then after that, bottom of the hour, Jonathan Tannenwald from Philly.com, the man we usually turn to when there is business news or TV-related news when it comes to American soccer. He'll join us to talk about the new deal that apparently is going to take MLS away from NBC. And I know there are a lot of tears out there today about that. So we'll talk to Jonathan at 10:30, and then your calls and whatever other topics are on your mind. But before we get to that, somebody's calling right now. You're interrupting my spiel. Who is this? 956.
It's Jimmy Conrad. Vince from Toronto.
It's what?
It's Vince from Toronto.
Oh no, it's not.
What's up, Jason? It's Elliot.
Oh, you're calling me early?
I know. I wanted to call you 15 minutes early since Jimmy Conrad always calls 15 minutes late to throw you off.
Okay. Well, but Elliot, this is it may not seem like it all the time, but this is a well-oiled machine we have working here.
Oh, I know.
So you have completely thrown off my schedule. I was going to pour out my heart a little bit, in relation to the campaign we're running right now, and you've mucked it all up, Elliot.
Well, I have a question about your campaign, Jason.
Okay, sure.
And we can lead right into it. If your wife gave $1,000 to the campaign, would she finally get a date night with you?
You make some assumptions there, Elliot. First, you assume my wife wants a date night with me.
That is true. That's true.
Yeah. I think that's the major assumption, to be honest with you. Yeah. No. If she gave $1,000, sure, she'd get a date night. I'd throw her a bone. You know what I mean?
Nice. That's good to know.
Well, okay. Well, we'll keep you on the air. Let me just get through what I've got to get through, Elliot, and then we'll branch out. We'll talk about the Audible audio book for your soccer Spanish piece or work. Sorry, and then we'll get into a little bit of the wider soccer world in a second. Okay, just hang on.
Good.
Just hang on for me. I'm not going to put you on hold or anything. Just don't talk. Don't mess up the show. All right. So yes, obviously Elliot and I they're alluding to the campaign, the Indiegogo campaign for Soccer Morning. It is, if you go to soccermorning.com, it'll redirect you straight to the Indiegogo campaign. At this point, we are past the halfway point. We started on Wednesday morning. We are past the halfway point. We're going into our third full day, and making amazing progress. And I have to say thank you. We are over 200 people have contributed to the show so far, and that's fantastic. And I was thinking about this morning. What this campaign is sort of my mandate to continue to do the show? Obviously, we do this during the day, and yeah, I write about soccer, but anybody who freelances know, Elliot will know. Anybody who freelances know it's very difficult to make a living freelance writing on anything, much less soccer. So in order to do this show, I need your help. And that's what this is. The Indiegogo campaign is sort of my mandate to keep doing it. If you like me enough, you help out a little bit and we can keep the show going, which I think is, what nobody wants the show to go away, right? You're listening to it. You enjoy it. And the other thing is part of the reason to keep the show going and to keep pushing forward and spread the word, because we need to do that as well. Part of that is I want to make this show the type of show that the big names, especially in American soccer, just can't avoid. I want to be that show. Elliot, chip in for me here. Don't you think that the goal should be if you're anybody in American soccer, you have to come on Soccer Morning? Shouldn't that be my goal?
That should definitely be your goal. I think your target for the Indiegogo campaign is too low.
Oh, sheet. Come on. I almost cursed there. I said sheet. What are you doing to me? It's not.
No, I've already contributed to the Indiegogo campaign and supported it on Twitter and Reddit.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think everybody should chip in. I want to get 10 people to get that $1,000 mark and have a date night for the Davis household, which is deserved and long overdue.
Okay, I appreciate that, Elliot. Well, okay, look, you're here. You're now we'll start about 3 minutes earlier than I intended, but it's fine. We'll get going here. Elliot, first, give the background of your book, because I want to talk about that first, and certainly the goal of the book that you've published and what it contains and how it can help people.
All right. Well, my name's Elliot Turner, and I write about soccer as in a freelance format for the Guardian.
Wait. This is not the dating game.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Flat speed dating. Well, I'm a Sagittarius. I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm Chicano, Mexican American, and I wrote a book in 2011 that was pretty popular and did really well for an indie title that was an illustrated guide to soccer in Spanish. And basically, it taught sort of the key Spanish terms you need to know if you have no background in Spanish whatsoever. And then it also has some of the regional nuances, too, for even, native speakers like me who have, speaking Mexican Spanish for a long time. I've maybe never been to Spain or Argentina because I have had the fortune of living and working in those countries. So I posted the book in 2011, did pretty well, but I keep getting these, nagging emails and, tweets and Reddit comments where it's hey, but how do you actually, pronounce that stuff? So I finally, I got a lot more respect for you and Jay Rodius and Trevor because I downloaded Audacity and learned how to actually do audio editing, which is a pain in the ass.
Sure.
And
yes.
I recorded. I went through the Audible loopholes and I recorded the book. So there you can hear all the Chicano, half Mocho Spanish and learn to mispronounce all the Spanish soccer terms you want.
Awesome. So it's so it's sort of a. It's sort of a colloquial soccer Spanish. I mean, we're not talking about you're learning Spanish in Spanish class in high school. This is useful everyday Spanish.
Yeah, this is American Spanish.
American Spanish. There you go.
The dirty stuff.
The dirty stuff. And so you've got the Audible book now. So I'm assuming audible.com. Is there a / or do we just send people there and have them search?
It sucks. There's this other Elliot Turner character who has published a book. So if you go to audible.com and search for Illustrated Guide to Soccer in Spanish, it'll show up. If you just type in Elliot Turner, it doesn't show up. So.
Okay. There you go. Elliot also writes for The Guardian fairly regularly on American soccer topics. I know you write about the national team quite a bit there, and Elliot is he and I are of a like mind in the sense that we like to kind of delve into some of the more esoteric questions around American soccer, which I'm fascinated by. I know not everybody cares, Elliot, but when you write about this national team, the U.S. national team, isn't it more fun to sort of talk about the journey and how this country, this wacky country of ours, tries to put out the best soccer team possible every 4 years for the World Cup?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's fun to talk about it on Twitter with you, and I know Noah Davis of MLS Soccer is a good reference point because I think I'm listening. I know that Bradley's sort of the elephant in the room, right? Everyone's talking about him moving to Toronto, but I think there's a lot of new fans who don't realize that. Like in 2003, DeMarcus Beasley kicked ass in the Champions League with PSV Eindhoven. So like we don't need to wait for some American to succeed in the Champions League. It's already happened.
Right. Well, I mean, but
I remember like Marisa Dew played awesome for Toronto, and then had a good World Cup in 2010. So it's like this has already happened before. Like, what's the big deal? He's just getting like a huge pay raise.
You know, I don't know that it's ever going to be good enough. I mean, I think that's what we're getting to, right? I mean, it's a part of the inferiority complex for some people, and for some people, it's part of the, complete and utter rejection of anything domestic. They may support the national team, but they want those guys to be European-based players, and they'll otherwise pay attention only to the Premier League or the or La Liga or the Bundesliga, whatever.
Yeah. My thing is what's really exciting about the Bradley move is that he's not even really at his prime yet. I think 28 to 32 for a center midfielder is going to be his prime, so he has room to grow if he wants to. And I think what I like about the move is that he's the type of player who's going to make everyone else at Toronto better because he's sort of a fulcrum guy, and he's kind of like what I wanted Claudio Reyna to be when he came back to New York, but he actually has the physical tools to still tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to really raise the level for Toronto, although I'm not sure if DP signings is like the path to glory in MLS, but I'm happy for him. I'm happy to see him play in person more than anything.
There are a couple of different questions there. I mean, like, yeah, as you said, are DP signings the way to go to put together a winner in MLS? Not necessarily, but for Toronto, it's going to take some splashy stuff, and they got Jermaine Defoe too. It's going to take some splashy stuff to get those fans turned back around after 7 years of just abject pain. So I can see it from almost as much of a marketing move. Even if you don't think Michael Bradley's marketable, he certainly has a name. And when you pay $10 million for anybody, people take notice. And when he comes from Roma, people take notice. I think that I think that you're right in a lot of different ways about what Michael Bradley will be able to bring and how he might take advantage of the situation. But there's something to be said about this being a backwards move, Elliot. But is that really should that be the takeaway?
Well, I think here's the calculus. All right, Landon Donovan went to Bayer Leverkusen, didn't do so hot, came back, and he's had a great U.S. national team career. I mean, you can't deny that. But I always remember this one friendly where he played versus Ecuador, where he just lights out, scored a hat trick, like fantastic performance. And I always thought, what if he had been in the Champions League those 10 years? Like, how much more could he have scored if he had been in the Champions League pushing himself at the highest level? Because I think when the MLS, the quality play is so much higher now than it used to be, that when players come back, it's not so much that you're going to see like a noticeable decline. It's just they may not be as consistent or reach the same heights. So it's sort of like the what if argument, which nobody can really refute. Like we can never say like,
exactly.
Donovan would have scored like 90 goals as opposed to 80 goals. It's just like, okay, like he's just a really good player as opposed to an all-star.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there are these conclusions drawn that are irrefutable because they're imaginary. When you say to me, "What if Landon Donovan had stayed in Europe?" and the assumption is that his ceiling was much higher. I don't know. I mean, considering where he came from and the path he took, I mean, the guy reached some pretty, he, in terms of his talent and his ability, he got pretty good. I mean, I think it's an assumption, and maybe that's unfair to Landon Donovan. Maybe he does have a higher ceiling, and I'm selling him short. But I think it's an assumption to assume, it's an assumption. It's a presumption that Landon Donovan would have been much better if he had stuck it out at Bayer Leverkusen. There are plenty of foreign players of immense talent who end up at, outside of their own home countries at a club like Bayer Leverkusen or wherever, who flame out at 18, 19, 20 years old or never reach the heights that they're supposed to for a host of reasons. And I'm just, in terms of the alternate realities, it's just as likely that Landon Donovan staying at Bayer Leverkusen could have ruined him as it is that it could have made him into a world star.
Or it could have been like the Giuseppe Rossi situation where you've got like he's reaching new heights, but he just is getting hacked to death, and he never can perform in a World Cup because of unfortunate injuries. So yeah, it's counterfactual, but it's go both ways. I think with Donovan, the thing with me is that 2002, absolutely amazing World Cup. 2006, totally disappeared. 2010, he had. I mean, I definitely think like the last game and the out-round game, like he was pretty lights out. But it's like, could 2010? What if he had played like in 2002? Like, how could the U.S. maybe have beaten Ghana? So, it's,
okay.
these kind of factuals are fun to debate, but we can never really,
Right.
give
Yeah.
like a yes
No.
answer.
But that's sports. I mean, it's not just soccer. It's sports in general. And it's again, I think that what's fascinating to me here is the thing that I am most focused on, and I'm learning this about myself as well, Elliot, is when you say what if about Landon Donovan, and now that Michael Bradley is leaving Roma, who is in second place in one of the most respected leagues in the world, the thing that we first go to as Americans is, well, we're losing the guy that is carrying the American flag in Europe, which leads me to the question, especially with the growth that MLS has shown and certainly the heights MLS wants to hit, why do we need that validation anymore?
Yeah, I mean, DeMarcus Beasley, semifinal. He was a starter for PSV Eindhoven in 2003. Semifinals of the Champions League, lose to AC Milan on away goals, and Americans already been there and done that. So, I mean, I don't think I need that validation. My thing is, it's sort of the weird preference where I actually preferred the early career trajectory of Ogechi and Yewi. Like, go to like a sort of lower tier, somewhat lesser European league, and be on the top team there and go to the Champions League, like with such a Kazakhstan is doing. Like, I prefer that than like going to like the relegation EPL teams. I know you get paid a lot more money in the EPL, but I mean, that's kind of my preference.
Yeah, well, you mentioned money, and clearly money is a factor for Michael Bradley. He's going to be making, most reports have it, about 5 times as much in Toronto as he was making in Italy, although there's some question over, pre-tax reporting versus post-tax reporting. Is that a negative? I mean, is that a check mark against him, an X mark against him, that he is clearly being lured by the money? I mean, we tend to look down on athletes when they do things like that, but I feel like that anybody else would have taken the opportunity. The same offer comes for you, 5 times your salary, you're taking it.
Well, I think my thing is, like, in America, we obviously have a love-hate relationship with money, where we all like to pretend like we don't care about money, but we all care about money. So I think for kids growing up who are professional athletes who I had no chance of ever being a pro in any sport, but like when I was in middle school, I had to choose between hockey or soccer because you only have one weekend. You can't be like in one tournament and another tournament. So like as a young kid, you see like, hey, you can be Michael Bradley, make it big, and still play in North America. I'm all for it because I know there's lots of like people who play basketball who like are like they want to make it big, they want to like get that big payday. If you can get that now that that's on the table and people can see that and it's American doing it, I think it's a good thing for the league.
Yeah, I suppose that's in terms of the example that Michael Bradley sets is the same as Clint Dempsey in a lot of ways. It's and one of those sort of tropes that I pull out every now and then is MLS is not going to be truly big until we have soccer playing kids at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 who are going through that imaginary scenario of scoring the winning goal in the MLS Cup. I mean, that's where we need to be.
Yeah, true. I think what's really impressed me with MLS is just like the quality of the MLS players like Omar Gonzalez, Graham Zusi, and Matt Beasley, who you've seen raise their level while playing in the league. And I think that speaks really highly of the league. The fact that a kid like Freddie Montero is scoring more goals in Portugal now than he scored in MLS, even though he was a good MLS player.
Right.
Speaks really highly of how the league is. I think, I'm happy for Bradley. I don't think his level is going to noticeably drop off. And I think getting more games, he could maybe even be a little sharper. You
mentioned Freddie Montero. That's a story I haven't really had a chance to cover here yet. There are currently rumors happening that he's going to be purchased outright, that there's negotiations happening, and the Seattle Sounders still own his rights, or at least I'm a little confused as to exactly how that's going down, but I know Seattle's going to get paid if there's a sale of Freddie Montero at Sporting. And you see him score, and the funny thing is, and I'm not whining about this, I think this is true in a lot of the debates we have about soccer. Some people, as you said, it reflects well on MLS that he is scoring more in Portugal than he did in MLS, which either indicates that MLS is more difficult or different. I guess different is probably fair, or that he's developed as a player and MLS has sent him along and now he's reaping those rewards. But people might also flip it around and go, well, that's because MLS is too physical, Elliot.
Well, I would say that MLS is definitely a more physical, defensive-focused league than the Colombian league where he would have been playing where he was playing. So I think that MLS did a good job of sort of like toughening him up, where now his technical capabilities can shine in Europe, whereas before, if he had gone from Colombia straight to Europe, he might have just gotten eaten alive by defenders.
This is a good point. All right, Elliot is also he's a big Real Madrid supporter, and I figure we talk a little bit about Real Madrid right now. Elliot, how are you feeling about this club at this moment?
I really like Carlo a lot, and it's exciting to watch Ronaldo and Bale play. But that injury to Sami Khedira just really screwed our season. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a good second place finish behind Barcelona, and if they stumble, maybe we'll catch up. But Sami Khedira was just such a linchpin to the team that this season
what kind of blow? Well, what's Sami Khedira obviously, but what kind of blow to the psyche of Real Madrid as a club would it be if Atletico finishes this out in second place?
Oh man, it'd be huge. There was a lot. I think it was almost a decade that passed before Atletico even beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, and this happened in the last year or so. So it'd be a huge blow. Of course, then if we go buy Diego Costa this summer, which is a possibility, then everything will be well again. But Atletico is just looking terrifying with the Costa Villa partnership. I mean, their team, if he's had some injury problems, so that could help us in terms of making sure we finish second. But yeah, they're a scary team to look at.
Speaking of Diego Costa, and while we're in the Spanish realm here, I saw a story, I saw a report that Diego Costa, and the story with Diego Costa is Brazilian born, wants to play for Spain, and obviously dual national issues are always hot button issues. But I've heard that he has been subjected to some xenophobic chants at Valencia. Did you see this?
I didn't see it, but I would just never be surprised at all. I always hear about games where there's always racist chants happening. It's one of the worst aspects of Spanish soccer, that you go to a stadium and any player has even somewhat dark skin is subjected to it. It's just despicable.
I mean, it seems odd though. I mean, and I guess that from an American standpoint, and I'll admit that I have not been immersed in some of the club first cultures. I came to this game as a U.S. national team fan and an MLS fan, and we haven't really hardened our edges that well, although it's happening. For Valencia, because Diego Costa could help Spain. So if there's, where does the national considerations and pride stop, and the sort of, well, we hate you because you're on that other team, so we're going to chant at you that you're not Spanish and get out of our country and all that stuff. Where does that stop? I mean, where's the line there?
It's such a weird situation too, because I remember in 2008 when Spain won their first ever European not the first ever European championship, but the first one since Luis Suarez, won it for them in Spain during the Franco dictatorship. One of their key players was Marco Senna, a nationalized Brazilian holding midfielder that really had a wonderful tournament and played well. But the coach who picked him, Luis Aragonés, was then later rumored to have made really racist remarks about bananas in regards to Thierry Henry. So it's just this weird sort of schizophrenic situation where you have it's we accept you, but in our subconscious we hate you, and sometimes that manifests itself in sport when we get really emotional.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a really weird relationship.
And again, I mean, I think it's it obviously speaks to the fact that a lot of times European attitudes towards club over country are much more established, and we're moving towards something approaching that here. You see little signs of it throughout MLS, and you'll even find some fans in certain cities who will tell you, I don't care what happens with the national team, I only care what happens with my MLS team. Is that good, bad, or just a sign of the times?
Well, I personally, I love the national team, but if I can see, you can look at a calendar and see which games are important and which games are important and which aren't. And when I saw I think the last wave of qualifiers, when I saw Sporting KC was sending Zusi, and I think they seen Beasler, I was like, oh man, I really want to, they really want these guys to get injured, in Panama City, right, and to sweat so much because it's so hot down there, and the airfare, and the air travel. So I'm not gonna ever say no, I don't care about the U.S. national team, but definitely if I can look between juggling important games, I'll be well, I'd rather have Zusi and Beasler we're playing for Sporting KC than traveling to Central America for a game that's not that important to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times we look to England. I mean, it's obviously easier for most Americans to understand what's happening there based on the shared language. And in England, so much of the relationship between the national team and the clubs and the fans has been, sort of poisoned by bad behavior and tournaments where they go and they just throw up an egg, or they have problems, or the coach loses control. So some of that is a function of other things that the United States isn't dealing with yet.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's also just as you get more history, you'll get more like bitter rivalries and incidents and whatnot, sort of like, Red Sox, Yankees, and eventually, but even England has like smoothed over. There's no longer like a united Liverpool camp when they go to meet up. Everyone plays and gets along nicely.
For the most part, yeah.
I don't have like an LA Galaxy Toronto camp or fiasco at this World Cup.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mean, the rivalry aspect of it, something MLS pushes very, very hard for obvious reasons. I mean, rivalry attracts the casual fan because it feels bigger than the average regular season game, and you can't really manufacture them. I don't blame MLS for pushing rivalry, maybe even where some doesn't legitimately exist. But the only thing that can really figure this out is, the only thing that can really establish those things is time. And how long are we talking? I have no idea.
Yeah, and my whole thing with that is that, I think baseball is the only professional league that successfully had two franchises in one city. I never understood Chivas USA going to LA. I don't understand. I understand getting like money involved, but like New York City FC, like I think they're trying to like arbitrarily manufacture intra-city rivalries. I don't see it working. It's only kind of worked for like baseball with the Mets and Yankees, but like the NFL wouldn't try it. I don't think the NHL would try it. I don't think the NBA would try it. So I guess maybe on the one hand it's very ambitious and audacious, but on the other hand I don't see it really working out. And I don't think it's worked out for Chivas USA.
No, and that's going to be one of the fascinating storylines of 2014. We've got Michael Bradley coming back, Jermaine Defoe joining this league, the Camilo situation. By the way, while I have you here, and I've got some extra time, we're going to push Jonathan Tannenwald to 10:45. Do you have an opinion, a take on what's happening with Camilo, the Vancouver striker who just decided that his contract wasn't valid with the Whitecaps and showed up in Mexico?
Well, aside from just like laughing because I find it hysterical, my reaction is like, this has happened before. Basically, MLS is going to have to sue him and bring the attention to FIFA, and then FIFA is going to force Caratara, after a lot of legal wrangling, to pay like a transfer fee, and then Caratara will appeal that transfer fee, and it will come down like 10%. Yeah. But the stuff has happened before. I think it's nice that there's like a way to arbitrate this, because I know that one of the greatest moments in history of Real Madrid was when they were able to basically steal Alfredo Di Stefano from Barcelona. And it was a really messed up situation where FIFA sided with Barcelona, but then the Franco dictatorship said, by the way, we passed a law where you can't import foreign players, and we're only going to repeal this if Real gets our man.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And you kind of came from the other side of it. I've talked to people in Mexico. Our friend Eric Gomez, who covers Liga MX down there, says he thinks it's the other side. It's the other way, and that MLS and Vancouver will want to avoid any unseemliness, partly because MLS has got a business model to protect and a precedent that they don't want to set with this, and that they'll negotiate some nominal fee even before any of the suing happens.
My whole thing is that maybe that's possible, but if I were MLS, North American sports have a unique concept of like a player option. If you look at European soccer clubs, there's no like player or club option where they're like, oh yeah, you were good, so we're going to activate this for a fourth year. So like MLS has got to set a precedent where like when they activate your like extended option, like that's valid and you've got to stay on board. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's like, because MLS's business model is predicated, in some sense, is predicated on like, hey, we'll get these like young South American guys or Central American, whatever, they'll be good, then we'll sell them. But if we can't, if people aren't going to respect like the option years and just like throw it away, that's not worth anything, then that really hurts their leverage in terms of trying to make money. Yeah. So I think they need to take a hard line, but I'm also like, kind of an aggressive, mean-spirited person. So
all right. If you are looking for more Elliot, first of all, you follow him on Twitter. It's Foot Fanatico, F-U-T, Fanatico. If you're looking for his writing, it's at footfanatico.com. If you're looking for further writings, he is at The Guardian under Elliot Turner, just ELLIOTT, and and you'll find him. And then obviously the illustrated guide to soccer in Spanish and the new Audible audio version, which you narrated yourself through Audacity. Sounds fascinating.
Yep. The only audiobook that has illustrated in the title.
I'm very proud of that. It is literally the only one. You made sure of this.
We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know what the future. There's always copycats. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of Vinces in Toronto now that Bradley's there.
That is a big claim. Elliot Turner joining us on Soccer Morning. Always love talking to Elliot. Thanks a lot for your time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot. Good luck with the Indiegogo campaign.
I appreciate that. Elliot out there spreading the word. Good guy, Elliot. Fantastic Twitter feed because he's not boring. He mixes it up. He has some fun with it. And you don't let him tell you otherwise. Don't let him tell you that he's mean-spirited, and he's not. He's not. Now, he may do something to that effect for humor purposes because it's funny, but definitely not mean-spirited. All right, as I mentioned while talking to Elliot, they were pushing Jonathan Tannenwald back to 10:45. We'll talk to him about the MLS TV deals, the new MLS TV deals. Apparently, this is ready to be announced as early as next week at the MLS Super Draft. We'll find out. The word on the street is that NBC has been pushed out or has decided not to re-up, or depending on how you want to look at it, MLS decided not to go with NBC. So we'll get all of those details from Jonathan Tannenwald. That story first reported by Ivis Gullersep at goal.com. What does that mean? I mean, I think there's going to be a mourning period, and there already was yesterday on Twitter when this news broke. MLS fans liked what NBC brought to the table, and it wasn't just Arlo White, and it wasn't just Kyle Martino. It was the production values, the sense that every MLS game that they put on was a big event. They showed they showed the anthems, they showed the processional, they had the MLS anthem playing, and I think that was one of the first times people even realized there was a legitimate and not that bad MLS anthem to be played before every match if you'd never been to a live one. So there's a lot of questions here, what this means. And I was told last night, because one thing that I kind of got to after processing the information was, well, that certainly means MLS 36, which is that show that follows a player for 36 hours. They've done it with hockey, which is obviously one of their big properties at NBC. They've done it with race car drivers and maybe even boxers and the like. That will certainly be done in 2015 when this new deal kicks in. But I was told yesterday that it's actually done for 2014. There is no MLS 36 this year. So you won't get Brad Davis and Tally Hall out shooting guns on MLS 36. But you will get your MLS Insider, which became a staple last year. Maybe MLS Insider needs to be a little bit more fleshed out. I wonder about time slots and the like, but we'll check with Jonathan Tannenwald, see if he has any information on that front. Because again, part of the NBC deal wasn't just about their presentation, although that was the headline. It was also about all that stuff they call shoulder programming, which is the MLS MLS 36, the MLS Insider, certainly any pregame and postgame content. That's where people lose Fox a little bit sometimes. Although we get Eric Winalda back on an MLS, come on. Get Eric Winalda talking about MLS. I can't go wrong with that. It makes it interesting. Certainly makes it interesting. All right. What I'll do here, the phone lines are open, 347-756-6276. You can get me on Twitter at Soccer Morning. What I'll do here is open up the phone lines for anything and everything. One of the things that came out of the Michael Bradley discussion, the Michael Bradley move, and maybe this isn't directly linked because now the U.S. National team has gathered in L.A. For their January camp. Jurgen Klinsmann has called in a rather interesting and perhaps exciting roster. And per report that came out yesterday, and I think this probably filtered through one of the men in Blazers. What's his name? Roger Bennett. Excuse me. I think this probably filtered through Roger Bennett. Jurgen Klinsmann on the record yesterday saying there is no demand for American players in Europe. Here's the direct quote. There is no demand. It means for us we have to work even harder. Players like Graham Zusi, Matt Besler, or Omar Gonzalez, they have to work harder to get the opportunity to be in that picture with teams in Europe for a short period of time. So we must be talking about loan. There's no demand for Americans on loan. Let's make sure that we're accurate here. And maybe later for a long period of time. Okay. It's just a sign of reality. The demand is not there. Whatever you think he's saying, because he makes it a little bit ambiguous, whether it's about short-term loans or long-term moves. I don't buy it. Not 100%. Now, do I can imagine a scenario where interest in American players goes up and down. But I don't buy for a second that there's zero interest in American players in Europe. Certainly, we're seeing kids go over there. I mean, Breck Shea got purchased not that long ago. There's some interest. Jurgen Klimson's playing mind games. We got a phone call, 270. You're on the air.
Yeah, this is Rory in Kentucky.
What's up, man?
I have to ask you, given the news this week of PDL expansion and USL expansion, do you think we're seeing too much too quick at the lower levels of soccer?
You know, I want to say that there is only as much growth as the market will bear, but based on the history of American soccer, I don't think you can say that with a straight face. And I am a little bit worried. I don't want to assume failure on any of the clubs that are coming into NASL or USL in the next couple of years. You could even have some doubts about MLS and their expansion plans and how they're going about that. That's out there because American soccer has seen so many clubs come and go. I think there's got to be some real fear. Now, I think that this is a different environment than it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago when we saw a lot of teams pop up out of nowhere, play 1 or 2 years at a high school, and then completely disappear. We're seeing things like, here's a perfect example of a team that maybe 10 or 15 years ago, or maybe even longer than that, would have folded already. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They're in USL Pro. They were before that. They were in the old USL First Division. They've managed to stick around, bounced around the Pittsburgh area, playing in a bunch of different venues. One of them was a minor league baseball venue. They've got their own little stadium built now on the water. I drove by it not too long ago. It's pretty cool. They have great views. That's encouraging. Now that's one example, and I don't think you can take that to mean that everybody's going to succeed. But I suppose that, you got to at least wait and see, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where do you fall on that? I mean, do you have fears?
I just am I'm a little worried that when we're getting to smaller markets, we're creating a possibility for a disaster to write off some of these markets before they're a little more stable, I guess.
Okay. Do you buy that if a team pops up, plays in NASL or USL for a couple of years and then folds, do you think that hurts the soccer market in that town or, for a long period of time?
It could put off investors.
It could do that, yeah.
Put off investors.
Certainly could do that. That's a very good point. And let's remember, I mean, for anybody who's sort of looking at this and going, what are they doing? The numbers to get into these leagues, they're not $70 million like it is for MLS.
Yeah.
We're talking about for a USL Pro team, we're talking about like a $500,000 commitment or something like that. Now, you want to believe that USL and NASL are doing their due diligence, that these teams are bonded, that there's insurance that they're not going to fold in a couple of years. But there has to be revenue. These teams have to figure out how to drive some revenue right off the bat. This is a very, very difficult business. Minor league sports in general is difficult. Minor league soccer. Come on. I mean, it's still the United States of America.
I think the most interesting one to me is Louisville.
Yes.
I know you've got the Orlando City tie, and that's probably what's driving it. But on a smaller level, all it's kind of made possible by the success of the college soccer team.
Okay, yeah,
They're bringing in.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're bringing in 5,000 fans almost for big games, for tournament games, and for rival games. And that's something, this is Kentucky. That's not something we were expecting at any point. And, a big part of that has to go to that athletic department and their move to the Big East. I mean, the Big East was always loaded for years, and bringing in the coach that pretty much built Akron. Mm-hmm. And, you have college soccer, I don't know the specifics on it, but I'd say probably pretty well turning a profit. And again, it's Kentucky.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up Louisville. A lot of people in my timeline wanting me to talk about it. A lot of people hitting up Soccer Morning wanting me to talk about Louisville. And I apologize. I had it on the back burner. As you mentioned, Orlando City, who is moving to MLS in 2015, they'll still have their USL franchise. They'll still own the rights to a USL franchise. The rumor is, the talk is, they're going to transfer that USL franchise to Louisville. And, I'm assuming that they probably play and share that space with the University of Louisville's college soccer team, go ahead.
I think their new soccer-specific stadium at Louisville is designed by the architect who is the owner of one of the owners of Orlando City. So I'd say that's probably a given.
Okay. Yeah. And that, from all I know, that's a fantastic venue. I mean, probably one of the nicest in college soccer, and certainly on that level, USL Pro level, would be one of the best in that league.
Yeah. And it should be, and it's right downtown or pretty close to downtown. So, it's probably what you want from a USL team.
Yeah. I mean, I think to your point, thanks for the call, man. I think to your point, there's a lot of hope that all of these reasonably sized towns can support a soccer team. And I think that in the right circumstances, most of them can. I think I think that we have to be careful about just starting team all over the place. And again, I'm hopeful. And to be honest with you, neither one of the leaderships have done enough to allay all of my fears in the NASL or USL Pro. And remember, this is a group of people who were working together not too long ago and have split up and are now on very different paths. USL Pro is working with MLS. There's a relationship there that should help them navigate some of those choppy waters that might otherwise have seen teams fold in the past. NASL is going it alone, and they want to be different. They want to have no salary cap. They want to be the place where the New York Cosmos can thrive, and a team like San Antonio can happen. And for the most part, there are good signs in NASL, but there are also trouble spots, little hot spots around the country. You can see that there could be problems. Oklahoma City, and we need to get a new update on this. I'm not sure where things stand right now. Oklahoma City is supposed to have both a USL Pro and an NASL team. Can those two teams coexist in a town like Oklahoma City? That seems unlikely. That seems very unlikely. The only other example I know of where that was happening was Tampa. They had the Rowdies in NASL, and they had the VSI, Tampa Bay, whatever they were. Apparently very distant, one north of the city, one south of the city. But those two teams in the same general area, and the VSI Tampa Bay team is done. They folded. And I will maintain this, and this is true for even the lower divisions. One of the most important things for Major League Soccer, for American soccer, not just Major League Soccer, for American soccer, is for any team that starts to last, to be there for a very long time. You cannot engender loyalty among a fan base and turn this into a big sport in this country unless you exist. Area code 951, you're on the air.
And then, let's talk about the World Cup and how the USA will rise above and destroy CR7 and his Portuguese comrades.
Wait, are you making a statement that that's going to happen?
I don't know about destroy, but I think we can beat them.
Okay, I like the hope. I mean, I like the belief. Look, of those games, in order of least likely to beat them, least likely to win, it goes Germany, Portugal, Ghana. Yeah. I think Germany, Portugal, Ghana. Now you get Ghana first. So if Ghana is the weakest of the three, and I'm not sure that that's a slight against Ghana, they're still a good team. It's a tough group. If you got Ghana first, you have an opportunity to win, get 3 points, and then you set yourself up. And with Portugal coming out of that second game, having played Germany already, what will their psyche be coming out of that Germany game? They could be, if Germany completely demolishes Portugal, which is not impossible, maybe unlikely, but not impossible. Maybe they're down. Maybe the United States takes advantage of. There's a lot of ways to look at it. They could also rebound and destroy the United States. And we get to talk about 2002. Isn't that going to be fun?
But if you think about it, Ghana's not that strong coming into this World Cup.
Well, I mean, again, we got to wait till we get there. I mean, there are a lot of questions. This is a very the thing I love about this World Cup. I'm gonna let you go because I got to get to Jonathan Tannenwald. The thing I love about this World Cup is that there is so much uncertainty, and it's not just for the United States. It's it's across the entire tournament. And if you go back and listen to yesterday's interview with Tim Vickery, it's for the off the field stuff as well. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Jonathan Tannenwald, Philly.com. He'll join me and we'll talk MLS TV contracts. Don't go anywhere. It's Soccer Morning on the North American Soccer Network.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN and Kick TV with Jason
World from Philly.com.
Morning.
Good morning. All right, so we've grabbed you because when we talk TV, we talked to Jonathan Tannewell. It's the way things are. Yesterday, Ives Golersep breaks on Twitter and subsequently through Goal.com that NBC is out of the new TV contract for Major League Soccer. This is a blow for a lot of people, but this is, in terms of the timing, is this when we expected to know? Because per both you and Ives, it could be the announcement about this could be fairly soon.
I think we might have known well before now if negotiations had been concluded.
Okay.
But they weren't, is my understanding, and they are close enough to being done that now things are starting to leak out. I heard the NBC thing a couple weeks ago, but I didn't have it on firm enough ground that I was able to report it. All the credit is due to Ives for getting it out there first, and now, as I wrote last night, it's time to fill in some more of the pieces.
Yeah, you also wrote that NBC may not have made any kind of formal offer. Was that does that say anything, or is it just a function of the type of negotiations that they were, and maybe Fox being proactive?
Oh, I think it says something. NBC treated MLS very well. They wanted to stay with the league. I've reported that many times over. Is it possible that some of the things they wanted were a bridge too far, for some of the people making this decision? I don't know, and I don't think we'll find out until we know exactly what Fox's plans are.
Okay.
But I will say this, and this is important to keep in mind. Back in 2012, when NBC and MLS did their deal, MLS picked NBC's exposure over a bigger rights fee from Fox.
They did.
The exposure gap does not exist anymore.
No, it does not. Things have changed significantly on that front because at that time, the Fox outlet was FSC. It was Fox Soccer Channel, where MLS had been for some time. Everybody knows the FSC jokes that immediately come to mind. They were very much a low budget outfit, and it reflected poorly on MLS. And when MLS made the move to NBC, one of the things we talked about was the better production standards. The move to back to Fox now. The thing that's changed most significantly is that Fox has killed off FSC. They now have Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 in their bid to challenge ESPN's dominance of that market. And the number of households, I saw this today, and I don't know who to credit, but the number of households that has Fox Sports 1 is actually more than the number of households that has NBC Sports.
The credit goes to a lot of people on that, including, I think you saw it from Ted Filipakos, who's an agent for a few players in MLS.
I did.
The big question is going to be how many games are on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 right now. I believe that Fox Sports 2 is in 40 million homes, and Fox Sports 1 is both in 90 million homes and in HD in a lot of those homes.
I have that in HD. I do not have Fox Sports 2 in HD. So, yeah.
Obviously, it's not like Fox wants that situation to remain the way it is. They're working to increase their distribution to get more broadcast in HD, and they've got from now until 2015 to do it. And look, they've got plenty of other properties. Not just soccer here. They've got college basketball. They've got big-time college football. I believe they've got Major League Baseball and NASCAR coming down the road. So it's not that they don't want, it's not that they want things to remain the way they are, and I don't think they will.
Yeah, in order to give a home to all of this content that they have, they need to increase the distribution levels of Fox Sports 2 and get it in HD in most places. I mean, I think as a soccer fan, I would be distraught to know MLS was being relegated to Fox Sports 2. If that's the case, and I can't get it in HD, and a lot of people don't get it at all. In terms of Fox stepping back into this picture, clearly the World Cup rights that they have secured for 2018 and 2022 are a major driver of their interest in soccer. They have the Champions League rights as well. They have shown a commitment to the sport. Now, at the same time,
and they're getting the Bundesliga in 2015 too.
Okay, well that's fascinating news and excellent news for fans of German football. At the same time, they have a reputation in many cases for some of their production standards and the way they treat the game. They may have improved on that, but I think a lot of people still hold it against them that there have been Michael Strahan on Fox on Champions League broadcasts. They also, as far as I know, recently put their daily soccer show on hiatus. Now that could be that's a ratings move, but does that indicate anything that may trickle back on MLS?
I'm going to answer the last question first. I don't think so. It's a ratings move, and also the fact is they don't have any Champions League stuff for a while.
Right.
So, they're having ratings problems all over the place, not just.
And we know that in the world of soccer, for example, the Premier, you can't just show Premier League highlights. Right. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So it's not like they can treat that sport like they treat every other sport that they cover on that network.
And look, I'm not going to make a judgment on Fox's production quality in public. I have resolved myself to that, and I'm not going to say it's an easy resolution to make because, as you know full well, I have trouble keeping my mouth shut sometimes. But look, I'm not going to judge here. I'm going to give them some benefit of the doubt and see what it is that they come up with. Yeah.
There are a couple of things here that bear talking about, and again, the World Cup aspect of it.
That's the big one. Because what they really want is not just. They want MLS. They do actually want MLS. Let's make that clear.
Okay.
What they really want, and what they're going to get, is U.S. national team games.
That's part of the package.
That's the story that they need to tell in the build-up to the World Cup.
And as far as we know, with the details still unclear and no announcement made, we don't exactly know what the split will be because ESPN's still in the mix. But we haven't even mentioned the four letters yet, and that's amazing, by the way. ESPN is still going to be the primary broadcaster of Major League Soccer and the U.S. national team, but there may be a split here for the national team rights that will allow Fox Soccer to get Fox. I keep saying Fox Soccer, Fox Sports to get their hands on some of that.
I believe that to be correct. I have heard. I'm not going to say that this is absolutely true at this point, but I have heard that home World Cup qualifiers are on the table in the conversation. That is something that ESPN, for as much as the dynamic of that has changed over the years, and you got to remember that those used to be effectively paid airtime on ESPN.
Right.
The ratings skyrocketed last year, and they are now a genuinely valuable television property.
Which is part of the saving grace for MLS and why it's so smart for SUM to put these two products, these two packages together and sell them in one fell swoop. Let me ask you: you may not have any insider knowledge on this, but does this mean that Gus Johnson is going to call some MLS games?
I have no idea. A couple people have asked me that already. I have no idea.
Well, look, again, they seem committed to this. Let's groom Gus for the World Cup. He's obviously doing his other sports at the moment, basketball and college football. I've heard him recently. But if you need an outlet for him to go and quote unquote practice, then and you've got MLS on your network, maybe he's a guy, and maybe even more so than what we saw with the Gold Cup or whatever kind of stunting you want to imagine Fox was doing. Gus Johnson's name brings in a couple of casual viewers to a Fox Sports 1 broadcast.
He does have other commitments. He is their lead voice of college football, and he is their lead voice of college basketball.
That's correct, right.
Look, and they have John Strong in their stable. They have JP Dellacamera. They have, I believe, Steve Cangelosi does some CONCACAF and UEFA games for them. I don't want to speak entirely at it. That's going off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But I know they have John Strong and JP Dellacamera, and I would think that because those guys are not tied down to any one specific employer on a full-time basis at this point, that they will be on the table for Fox too.
Okay, there's certainly that. Something that's going to come up here. This is from Mr. JCTX on Twitter. The digital element of all of this. When it came to NBC Sports, they did a very good job of streaming the games that they had live and made it pretty simple as long as you subscribed to a cable package or a satellite package that had NBC Sports on it. How is Fox coming along? I'll admit that I don't watch Fox Sports to go or whatever the damn thing's called. I don't watch a lot of it right now. Occasionally I'll check in on a Champions League game. Do they have some catching up to do on that front? And is that a significant consideration for MLS?
No, for this reason. Fox has an authenticated streaming platform that works the same way that NBC Sports Live Extra does. It's called Fox Sports Go. You can watch Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 depending on what your cable provider offers you. For example, a lot of Comcast subscribers I know can watch Fox Sports 1 but not Fox Sports 2. It is separate from Fox Soccer to Go.
Okay.
I've been told that Fox Soccer to Go is not going away.
Okay.
But again, we're talking almost a year and a half from now. So who knows what happens between now and then.
Yeah, we're going to get one more. I mean, before everybody panics, let's remember you probably should wait to panic until preseason 2015 rather than right now. Right. And again, I mean, I think the prudent thing to do is to sort of allow for the possibility that Fox improves what they did previously. I mean, again, I think people are judging not just their previous MLS work, Jonathan, but the Champions League as well. And for those games, so for the ones where they throw Gus Johnson into the mix, they tend to be world feed. And what we're really critiquing is their pregame and their postgame and everything that surrounds it. And therein lies some more questions with the shoulder programming that NBC brought to the table. They did MLS 36. I've been told that MLS 36 is not happening for 2014, not just after the contract is up. And they have MLS Insider, which has been given a spot on NBC Sports. Is MLS Insider definitely going over to Fox Sports? And do you expect them to treat it with the same sort of importance that they did at NBC?
No idea.
No idea. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think that's been determined yet. I don't think it's my understanding that not all the digital rights matters have been settled yet. I might conclude from that that's part of the reason why the deal hasn't been formally announced.
Okay.
That's my own judgment. That is not a fact, but that's just me sort of reading the tea leaves.
And the other, now clearly the major thing here for MLS, the bottom line, is how much they're getting. Now, I'm not going to ask you.
I don't know.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
I'm going to keep saying that because everybody's going to keep asking.
I know you don't, but from an informed perspective, do you think it would have taken a significant amount more money from Fox in order to get them back into the picture, based on what we know about the previous decision to go with NBC, or is it just about the size of the potential audience?
Here's how I'd put it. If you want big players in MLS, somebody's got to pay for them. And I've been saying for a long time now that the money is going to come from the television contract.
Okay.
I saw some folks last night criticizing the fact that, MLS did its really great broadcast quality. They're going to be missed. Well, and I don't know whether Fox put more money on the table than NBC. But if you're saying that you want your decision to be made on broadcast quality and not on rights fee, where's the money for the players going to come from?
Okay, yeah. You have to pick your battles, and I think in this case, generally speaking, the precedent needs to be set that MLS is going to take the offer that brings them the most money. I mean, look, they could make it.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's certainly not. The way I would frame this is, at some point, MLS is going to, sort of get out of the
GarageBand.
It's going to have to get out of the mentality that they need to their handheld on some of these things. Now, then again, the perspective is, as you mentioned, with some of these these properties, and certainly this is the case with MLS as recently as 10 or 12 years ago, paying for airtime was the way of doing business. The fact, if they can, what was the total contract between NBC and ESPN was reported to something like $30 million. Is that correct?
I believe that the MLS NBC deal or ESPN.
Well, the total amount of their TV contracts
per year, MLS gets around $27 million combined from everything.
Per year. Okay, so this was a 3-year deal that they had signed with NBC and ESPN and ESPN's deal goes back, I believe. Okay, well,
so does Univision.
Okay, what I'm saying, okay, the NBC deal was a 3-year deal.
Yes.
Now we're coming back around. Okay, so a $27 million per year, and that's a drop in the bucket compared to even the NHL. So
Right.
if there is a significant increase, and I don't know that there will be, I mean, but even 10%, even 25% based, I'm sorry?
They want to double it.
No,
And
I realize that. I realize
Here's why I
that.
say that. As an abstract number, $54 million a year combined from 3 TV contracts is not a lot of money in the American sports landscape.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I wonder, and this is the same thing with salaries a lot of times, although now we're seeing a sort of a shift, although in the bottom
Get
end,
to that in a minute.
don't pay attention to the bottom end, just pay attention to what Michael Bradley's going to get. There's a PR aspect. There is a value decision on the part of sports fans when they see numbers like MLS is getting $54 million for their TV contracts. That's like, what? $54 million? Where meanwhile the NFL is signing a multi-billion-dollar contract. Now, there's no chance MLS can compete, and it's unfair to MLS to judge them solely on that number, but MLS needs that number to rise to have some kind of impact on that perception.
And here's why. If you are a fan of a club not named Seattle, Los Angeles, Toronto, or New York, and you want, and I might even throw Vancouver and Montreal into that mix too. If you are a fan of a smaller team and you want your club to sign big players, and I know of a smaller team whose fans want their club wants to sign big players because I live in that market. If the club says we're not going to spend money that we don't have, and I suspect that Toronto and Seattle would say the same thing. It just so happens that they have the money.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a rising tide to lift all of the boats,
Right.
then you take the biggest TV contract you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I think that the TV number, if all things, all of the things that you're taking into consideration, if you are a fan of a team that is outside of that 1%, and it's not 1%, but with those 5 or 6 clubs that you mentioned, if you're a fan of Columbus, DC, New England, well, maybe not New England, but a couple of other, FC Dallas, Colorado, certainly. If you're RSL, definitely. If you're a fan of those teams, you want MLS to take the biggest contract, period, end of story. Don't even worry about quality. Seriously. Whoever steps up to the table, especially if the distribution is either equal or better, and in this case it's better, the possible distribution, then you want MLS to take the biggest number possible because that puts the biggest amount of money into the pocket of your team, which can then be spent on whatever. Especially if you don't have an AEG, you don't have an MLSC, you don't have a Joe Roth bankrolling everything.
Correct.
Yes. All right. So anything else in terms of what we might expect? I mean, again, I think these things get overanalyzed because of where MLS is in its development, Jonathan. But this is part of that. And again, in terms of the numbers and in terms of the amount of money, and you said they want to double their contract. I think a lot of people will go, well, how can they possibly do that based on the ratings that they had? How do we explain that?
Sorry, try that again. The question confused me.
Well, I mean, based on the everybody talks about how bad MLS ratings are. It's worse than WNBA ratings, Jonathan. How do they justify asking for double the amount of money on their TV contracts when their ratings are in the toilet?
That's awfully hard to do, but I will say this. There is an understanding, and my sources at ESPN are better than they are at Fox. And I think I can say that there was an understanding at ESPN, Fox, and NBC that they have the potential to effectively be the bankers here. And there are a lot of people in all 3 networks who want Major League Soccer specifically to thrive and attract marquee players.
Okay.
Because the potential for the American soccer leagues to attract American sports fans is bigger than the potential for any other sports league. I'm not going to say the World Cup and other, stuff like that. But in terms of domestic leagues, MLS has the most potential to attract the biggest audience in the long term because it's the American league. And at the end of the day, American fans want to watch the American product.
All right. So essentially what we're saying is the relationship between MLS and its TV contracts is not necessarily based on the market. It may be based on investment.
Correct. And I think the TV, they know that.
Mm-hmm.
The broadcasters know that. Now, you would wonder whether they would say, look, take this money and spend it on players.
Right.
Because that's not guaranteed. depending on how you
Well, I mean,
listen to noises made by some of the owners.
But Jonathan, at this point, don't you think that, I mean, and I'm reverse engineering here, but don't you think that the signings of Clint Dempsey and Michael Bradley speak very much to MLS sort of trying to allay some of those fears?
I think it speaks to the league office trying to allay some.
Well,
of those
okay,
fears.
but ultimately the league office is the one negotiating the contracts.
We
Ultimately,
are,
the league
but we're also talking about, the people who I'm thinking have been saying for a long time that they're losing money are not in Seattle and Toronto.
Okay. No, that's true. That's very true. But I mean, you can only go so far in pushing. Again, the rules indicate that anything over a certain amount has to be taken up by the club, has to be paid by the owners of the club.
Sure, but
you
then
have
that's
to-
where that's
Yeah, okay.
you put enough television money in the market, and oh, by the way, the players union starts paying attention with the CBA.
Oh, yeah,
expiring
that's-
at the end of 2014, and they start saying, "Hey, wait a minute, let's change the rules here."
We've got dominoes falling all over the place. It's great. The Camilo thing, I think, is important. We've got Michael Bradley coming back, and that big salary, and that's a big in marquee bright lights number that is going to significantly impact how things go in the CBA. It's going to be
I
fascinating.
was talking to somebody recently who's very influential in MLS circles, and I said, "Look, to me, there are three big stories in MLS in 2014: the World Cup, the new TV deal, and the CBA.
Mhm.
And the World Cup is not the most important of them."
No. I think
And the person I was talking to sort of did a double take for a second and then said, "You know what? You might be right."
Yeah, no, there's that. A couple more questions. Make them quick.
Go right ahead.
Jake on Twitter wants to know if the digital option was ever seriously considered. Were you aware of any of that?
What is the digital option?
The-
I know that Ivis wrote about this, and I'm not able to confirm
Okay.
anything beyond
Go ahead.
the national broadcasts will be streamed through the platforms of those broadcasters.
Okay, I think what a lot of people had heard rumors of, or at least the potential, and this is actually timely with what the WWE has decided to do with their with a lot of their content is go to a online platform. In this case, YouTube was the place mentioned for MLS rather than have a TV partner.
Okay, well, okay. Some people
Here we go.
took a prognostication
Yes, from Sports Business
by
Journal.
John
yes.
Moran of the Sports Business Journal
Yes.
as a reported fact.
Okay.
It was not a reported fact.
Right.
It was a very intelligent guess because Major League Soccer does have strong relationships with Google and Microsoft. And of course, there's a potential for them to be a guinea pig on something like that.
Yes.
It's not going to happen.
Yes.
Let me
Okay.
say that again. It's not going to happen
Right.
in that way.
Right.
It might happen some number of years from now. And if you want to wear a tinfoil hat from now until then, you're right. It's a free country.
When high-speed internet is as ubiquitous as cable television and satellite television, then maybe we get there.
Look, it's not even that. Google does subscription stuff, things like this in other sports already.
Uh-huh.
The platform exists. I'm just saying that MLS is not going to go down that road right now.
Okay. I mean, again, I think we have to be maybe clear up some of my confusion. If we're talking about no TV partners and only being on YouTube,
That was never going to happen.
that's an insane
never
proposition
gonna
right now. Now, they've already got, as you mentioned earlier, they've already got their streaming platform, which I think is fantastic. Why would they don't need to go to Google or YouTube at this point. They got all that stuff in-house for the time being. If provided that they can handle the load.
Because, and I don't have the numbers on how many people subscribe to MLS Live. I know there are a lot. You could construct a case which would say that the incremental exposure and the amount of money you'd get from a Google kind of deal for MLS Live,
Sure.
or from
Yes.
any number of other such outside companies paying a fee to
Right.
run that operation in some form.
Yeah. No, okay. There's significant.
Would make give MLS more money. Than
Yes, there is a significant difference in the type of revenue stream we're talking about. MLS Live, it's subscription by subscription, and we're collecting from your credit cards, and we've got to process all of that. If Google steps up and says we want to be your subscription service, then they're gonna, they'll throw $20 million at MLS, whatever. I mean, that's completely arbitrary number.
And I'm picking my words here very carefully because there are a lot of rumors flying out there that I don't want to address them because I can't confirm them.
Okay, that's fair enough. Jonathan's a reporter. He doesn't like to step on unconfirmed stuff. I completely get that. Look, I had one more question. I seem to have lost it. I mean, the digital thing was certainly out there. I guess that's. I guess I'll have to finish off with that. We've talked about so many aspects of this. Again, MLS is in a very interesting time with the attendances, or maybe took a little bit of a hit this year because Chivas didn't even put any effort in. But attendance has grown to the point where you're pretty confident the league's not going anywhere. There seems to be significant money coming in some streams. The league is also claiming that they're losing. Don Garber's claiming the league is losing money. We know that,
and he will keep claiming
is
that
part of the CBA posturing. They're trying to improve their revenue streams via television. That is not as simple as it sounds. I don't know. We've got a phone call. Oh no, yeah, we got a phone call here. Are you still
Please
there?
tell me it's Ted.
301. You're on the air.
Hey, sorry. This is Pablo from DC.
Did you have a question for
How you
Jonathan?
doing?
Do you have a question for Jonathan, or did you just have something else?
Oh my! I'm not watching the show, so I don't know you were interviewing someone right now.
My
I was
gosh.
going to comment on.
All right, look, Pablo, hang up and call me back in 5 minutes, okay?
I will.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate that, man. All right. I thought we may have some nice interaction. Somebody steps up to the table, asks Jonathan Tannenwald a question about the deal. No, that's not going to happen. Jonathan Tannenwald, Philly.com, the goalkeeper on Twitter. Fantastic stuff about the MLS TV deals coming up. 2015. The announcement could be as soon as next week in Philadelphia. That would be interesting.
If it is, you're invited up for it.
I plan on being there. We'll see how exactly I manage to work out my itinerary. But thanks a lot for your time, Jonathan, as always. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure.
So there's Jonathan gone. We'll roll through. I'll open up the phone lines. Maybe Pablo will call back, and we'll actually have a conversation about whatever you wanted to talk about. 347-756-6276 is the phone number. And I'll go ahead and hit this again. Soccermorning.com is where you need to go to be redirected to our Indiegogo campaign, where we are fundraising for 2014. We're getting set. We're getting into 2014. We're keeping the show going. We want to be around. We want to improve the quality of the product, certainly, but we also want to push the boundaries of the popularity of the show if we can. And as I told Elliot Turner earlier in the show, the goal is to make Soccer Morning one of those shows that figures, big time soccer figures, at least in this country, because Europe plays by different rules and nobody's ever available for this stuff there. But at least in this country, you can't avoid Soccer Morning. If we want to have you on, we want to make it very difficult for somebody to say no. Area code 251, you're on the air.
Hey, it's Steven from Panama City, Florida.
Hey, Steven, what's up, man? Redneck Riviera.
Nothing much. I tried to get to my phone for a question for Jonathan. I just couldn't get to it in time. The biggest question I have is, with this new TV deal, is that going to give a specific day for MLS to play?
Those are the type of details I know that Jonathan would not have committed to if we had him on the air. All of that stuff, I think, is that may be the tail end of this negotiation. They may have agreed in principle to Fox taking over, and they're going to pay this much money, and we're going to get this many games on national television per week or per month or whatever. But they may not have locked that down. It would be nice to get those dedicated exclusive windows back. Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing about the Premier League and, La Liga and all that stuff. You know exactly when those games are going to be on or what day they'll be on.
Yeah.
With MLS, that's the reason why it's hard for me to be an MLS fan, because I never know when the games are on.
It's certainly been a problem the last couple of years, and I'll even draw it out a little bit further away from soccer fans specifically, and say that, look, if you are a casual soccer fan, if you're not really committed to the sport, or you really haven't invested in MLS, if you are used to your NFL game starting at 1 and 4 and 8:30 or whatever, then you become a creature of habit. If you're a baseball fan, 7:05 first pitch. So MLS needs to get into the business of being consistent, and hopefully Fox is a place for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, the reason why I'm a Manchester United fan. I know exactly when they're going to be playing, save of the FA Cup or League Cup or something like that. But I know they're going to be playing every Saturday or Sunday, 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and like tomorrow, 11:30, and that's what I'm looking for.
You're not a Manchester United fan because they win a lot. That's not why you're.
No. I've been a United fan for years now. And
okay.
Trust me, this year is kind of tough to watch them. But
well, yeah,
I'll be there.
You know.
I'll be there tomorrow in front of the TV watching them again.
I appreciate the phone call, man. Panama City's checking in. I give them a little bit of a hard time, but I do find it fascinating that United fans are finding out how the other half lives, or the other 19 teams in the Premier League. They're finding out how those guys live. It's interesting time to be a United fan, I'm sure. All right, so the phone line's still open, 347-756-6276. Again, soccermorning.com for the campaign. We're well over halfway through our goal. We've got over 200 people who have stepped up and helped out, and that means it means a lot. It means a ton. Thank you so much if you contributed. Thank you so much if you spread the word. If you are not in a place to contribute, I completely understand. Just go tell somebody. Let somebody know about the show and let somebody know that they can help make it a long-term thing. Vince, what's up, man?
Oh, hey, Jason.
If somebody else here, I'll tell you this. This is a true behind-the-scenes thing, Vince. If somebody else from your area code calls me, I would probably think it's you, and we'd have an awkward moment.
It's perfectly understandable.
I haven't memorized the rest of your phone number. I need to save you so that it pops up, Vince in Toronto. What's up, Vince?
You don't have me listed on the board. Producer Vince. This is his number.
That's right. You're producer Vince. I need to put that in there. I'll do that next time. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I was just reading the I just started catching the show around 10:30. So I don't know if you were talking about Klinsmann and his interview that he gave and how there's no demand for players in Europe.
I addressed it basically. I said I thought that a lot of it was Klinsmann mind games. He likes to do that kind of stuff. He likes to put out there that a challenge. But then again, and this is from Boston Free Films on Twitter. Yank demand in Europe, non-European passport players for 6 to 8 weeks is tough on cost/benefit. Cheaper players available for 6 months, which is true. I mean, if you have to get a work permit for a guy on a 6-month loan, I mean, is that really worth the hassle?
Yeah, that's true.
Anything else?
I was just thinking about it, and I find it really interesting that the two greatest players for Canada and the U.S. Spent their entire careers in Major League Soccer in Landon Donovan and Dwayne De Rosario.
You know what? I don't think that's going. I don't think either one of those players is going to be knocked off that pedestal anytime soon. I mean, it seems to me that we're going to have Landon Donovan and D-Ro as the standard bearers for both of those countries for a very long time. I mean, it's always possible that somebody has a better career than one of those guys, but if they're out there, they're in the very beginning of their career, and it's going to take them 10 years to even get to the point where we consider it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, man, it everything that's happening right now is good for MLS, and I'd rather have Graham Susie, doing fantastic in Sporting Kansas City, or Matt Beasler getting his minutes, being a leader on the team, than have them, ride the bench at some mid-table EPL club, rarely seeing the field. Look at Onyewu. He hasn't even seen the field. Now he's leaving Queen's Park Rangers.
I don't know how he keeps getting signed, but the guy is broken. I mean, it's clear that Gucci, and it's sad because I love Gooch. He was a beast when he was on top of his game, but the man's broken. And now we're talking about him coming back to MLS, and I'm almost like, I think it'd be better if he just retired. Now, I can't make that decision for him, but I think it would be better if he just retired. Enough already, Gooch. You clearly aren't, you clearly aren't in a place to contribute anymore. All right, appreciate the call, Vince. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Take it easy.
917, you're on the air.
Jason, what's up? This is Bill from New York.
Hey, Bill, what's up, man?
Figures I'd have to follow Vince. I guess with him calling 20 times a day, you have to follow him sooner or later.
The man is a machine, and you know what? I can't get the heart up to say we got to take a break. We need to chill on this relationship, Vince. We need to, I want to see some other people. I don't know. I can't pull the trigger on that. He's a good guy. What's on your mind, Bill?
I got 2 points. I'll make them real quick. First of all, with TV ratings, the ratings are going to be based on the sponsors. If the sponsors get more commercials, the ratings are going to go up. I just can't understand how they judge these ratings. I don't trust the whole system. I don't know how it really works.
Right.
But I think if the sponsors are making money, if the sponsors have commercials, they'll go up. So I know last week you had a guy talking about adding timeouts to the game, having 3 timeouts per half, something like that.
Yeah.
That would be a nightmare for us, because then that would lead to TV timeouts, and it would lead to more. Now the game going from 2 hours would go to 3 hours.
Well, I mean,
absolute mistake.
It would be bad. It would fundamentally change the game. I mean, I don't think anybody's on board with our friend Mitchell, who was promoting the idea of changing some of the rules of soccer. I mean, you fundamentally make, if you want to watch a game that's kind of like soccer but has timeouts and penalty, but go watch lacrosse. It's not my sport, but go watch lacrosse. I think we've got. Exactly. You could go find a sport that is close enough to that. In terms of the TV ratings, look, they are what they are. I mean, that's the system that's in place. I get your frustration, and I certainly have had that thought where, okay, look, this whole Nielsen thing, man, it's a racket, and they have a monopoly on the ratings, and who knows what their biases are in the system, and is this methodology the right way to go for soccer, and is it missing a portion? Is it missing everybody in a bar watching the game? I mean, there are a lot of questions around it, but again, this is what we've got. This is the system we've got, and this is how MLS is going to be judged. So hopefully, the ratings rise because there's a general interest. I think the other thing, Bill, and you can tell me if you feel this way too, I think most of it is that MLS is a local product right now. You have your MLS team that you watch, but you're not really interested in the game of the week between 2 teams on the other side of the country.
It's true, but it's going to increase now. This whole Bradley thing. People are going to watch Toronto now.
Yeah.
People from New York, from wherever, California, they're going to watch Toronto just because of Bradley. So the ratings will come. I think we have to stop worrying about ratings. They're going to come. Eventually, it'll happen.
I think the only reason to worry about that, thank you for the call, Bill, the only reason to worry about ratings is because it feeds the TV revenue. And we need the TV revenue for MLS to take the next step. That's the issue. 301, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, this is Pablo again.
Hey, good call back, Pablo.
Sorry, called. I listen to you at work, so I pause you, over and over again until I get to your show.
Oh, that's nice. So you get to catch. Yeah, I see that. Okay. So what's on your mind today?
Yeah, a quick thing. Just going back to Bradley's thing. After listening to your show with Jared on Bradley and what you've talked yesterday and today too, there's been this argument about how in the American soccer psyche we need validation. Mm-hmm. Among our, I guess, European clubs or whatever on our players, and that's why a lot of people are criticizing the Bradley move back to MLS because of validation, because we're not only perceived as good players in Europe, and I kind of disagree with that approach, because I don't think it's validation. I think it's we want, as U.S. soccer national team fans, we want the best teams that we can field in a World Cup or wherever. And the way you get it like that, there's a bunch of different variables, but the most important thing is that you have the best players out there. And for us, or at least for me, in traditional success philosophy is the best players are those that play in the best leagues and the best teams. And it's now that I feel inferior because Bradley's coming back, and I'm it's just I want him to compete against the best and play with the best.
All right, Pablo.
I think that's very straightforward kind of.
Let me take you on here. Okay, first of all, while I've said that issue about validation, I think that's part of the American psyche. I think that's in there. I'm not saying that's the one reason people are upset. I think a lot of people will dress it up as, now he's going to go play against weaker competition and not be as good, and et cetera, et cetera. I think that the validation thing is just one small part of the reason that people are upset. But what you said, look, this is not the way the world works. Is not a straight line. It isn't. The best players don't always end up at the best teams. Now, in most cases, they do, and it's not necessarily true that the best American players, for a number of reasons, lots of variables at play when it comes to American players. It's not necessarily true that the best American players are always going to end up at the biggest. They're going to end up at a European club of some note or something like that. There are a lot of things that can happen in a player's career. Some of it's luck. Some of it's ambition, certainly. I mean, you can throw Landon Donovan out as that example if you want to. There are certainly a lot of things that can keep a player either in MLS or at a mid-level team in whatever league or whatever, however you want to look at it. I
guess my point is that we got to the reason why people hired Klinsmann, I think, and what fans discuss it. I think that we got to the point after the South Africa World Cup where we said, okay, we've gone to the point where I think we can dominate CONCACAF along with Mexico and Costa Rica. That type of competition, we can handle it with players playing in MLS and in and some other teams in Europe. They're not major leagues or major teams. But we said, okay, now is the next step. Now is the next step to take it to the to bigger teams. And over the past year, playing against Italy's in Italy and all these European teams in Europe, I think it was more in our head that okay, now we're walking towards that next step. And players, of course, is a fundamental aspect of it. I was going to ask you, like you had when Bradley, not Michael Bradley, Bob Bradley, where there was a discussion of going back to Vancouver for coaching. You were a bit critical of that move.
I'm a hypocrite on that front. Pablo, let me stop you because I've thought about this. I'm a hypocrite on that front, or at least, like I said, I am dealing with my own issues of whether or not I need European validation. And Bob Bradley is a perfect example of that. I think Bob Bradley is better than Staubach. I think he's better than MLS, and that right there indicates that I think he should be coaching in Europe. Now, again, it's not that I'm not guilty of it in terms of the issue of validation or the stage these guys are playing on. It's that it's that I question whether or not that's always the best path and whether or not we are putting the idea of having Europe and European soccer people think highly of Americans above what is best or above what is happening. If we value Michael Bradley at Roma higher than MLS getting better, that's kind of what I'm getting to. It's very complicated. There's a lot of feelings to get into.
There's winners and losers in this move, and the winners are MLS, of course, and I'm an MLS fan and a national team fan, and there seems to be this camp or people perceiving like there's a pro-European, which means you hate MLS, and it's not as black and white as that. Same argument that you use for Bob Bradley, it's what I'm using for Michael Bradley. I think he's better right now than MLS in Toronto, and I would like to see him in a better league and a better team succeed in better areas.
It's a fair point. Thanks for the call, Pablo. I'm running out of time here. I got one more call on the line. You have 10 seconds. 540, you're on the air.
Hi. Hey, Jason, John from Virginia. I'm sorry if you've already talked about this, but I was just quick reaction on the Winalda interview if you heard it.
I listened to it this morning, and Eric Winalda will always be Eric Winalda. He is a fascinating dude. Thanks for the call, man. He took some shots at Merritt Paulson, which is his want. He has the ability to say things that are slightly crazy and make them sound like the most regular thing ever. It's amazing the talent that man has. Thanks for listening, watching Soccer Morning on a Friday. We'll be back on Monday. SoccerMorning.com. That's where you need to go to help out the show, get us going for 2014. Thanks to our guests, Elliot Turner, Jonathan Tannenwald. I'll talk to you guys Monday. Bye.
Back in the days on the boulevard I landed, we used to kick routines and the presence was fitting. It was I, the abstract.
And me, the 5-footer. I kicks the mad style, so step off the Frankfurter.
Yo, fighter, you remember.